Hi, I'm Rhonda Massaf from the West Island blog, and I am here with one of my favorite friends, Colleen Jordan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rhonda?
Thank you. I'm good. Very well. You are an osteopath, pain care educator, therapeutic, and Pilates and yoga instructor. Did I
Yes,
get it right?
you did.
Very good. There's a lot going on, and I've watched you over the years. I've known you even to be taking some of these classes, and the length of time you went to school was always very impressive to me. Like it was quite
I'm a
something.
perpetual student. I'm still back in school all the time.
I love it. All right. So we are here to talk. We did a segment on pain and pain management because we are all stuck inside and there's a lot more pain due to anxiety, lack of movement, things like that. And we are working on how to cope with that. And let's start out with how do we get back to moving when we're already in pain and suffering?
Perfect. So I'd like to just start by thanking the people who reached out to me after the first time you and I chatted. It made me so happy because several people reached out to tell me that they were leaving their computer after messaging me to go and make friends with their pain or to go introduce themselves to their pain. And I can't tell you what it does to my heart because I know that long term that's going to help them so much. So what I wanted to start with today is that our bodies have all the answers that we need to get well. Sometimes we need to learn how to just get out of the way and let our bodies do what they know how to do. So what I mean by that is we tend to think of our bodies as these biomechanical things that's all these different parts and pieces that are all separate from each other, but they're not. We come from a sperm and an egg that come together to form a cell. Those cells keep multiplying, and just from that sperm and egg, everything that we are grows from that one thing. So I find it fascinating, and I encourage everyone to go on YouTube and check it out. If you look up the growing embryo to see how we develop from the sperm and the egg to what we are here, one of the things that always fascinates me is that our limbs, our arms and our legs, we kind of think that maybe they're stuck on at the end, but what actually happens is the fingers and toes grow first, and then the rest of the limb is grown like this, which is quite fascinating, and it completely changes the way that you approach movement if you can understand and get that visual. So, we tend to think that our bodies are working against us when we're dealing with something chronic. But I just want to bring people's attention to the fact of how many things are working for us all the time. So if you think about it, all day, every day, 17 to 30,000 times a day, our lungs are breathing for us. Whether we do a breathing exercise ever in our lives, our lungs will continue breathing for us all day long. Our heart is constantly beating and sending oxygenated blood to our whole system without us having to do a thing. We take food in through our mouths, and somehow the digestive system coordinates together, and it knows how to take the nutrients, the minerals, the enzymes, the vitamins that we need, and at the same time, it knows how to filter out and get rid of what we don't need. I mean, it's fascinating. It's quite amazing. If we break a bone, those two ends of bone grow more bone and they knit back together. Same thing if we cut our skin, those two cut pieces find each other and they union back together again. And then at the cellular level, which I won't even get into because it would take hours, there's so much going on. We have trillions of cells that are constantly dying off and regenerating, so that we're actually working with a clean slate quite often. So even you and I had a different cellular terrain when I started this sentence than when I finished this sentence. So to me, that's a great opportunity for people who are living in pain, that you always are like an etch-a-sketch. We feel like nothing's ever changing and nothing ever will change, but you're actually starting with fresh new soil quite often. So I think sometimes we need to trust the inherent thing that we're born with. And you are Rhonda, our new grandmother, and if you watch the toddlers and the newborns, they don't plan their movements. They don't move linearly. They just move according to what feels good, according to what's pleasurable. We lose that instinct as we get older, and in North America, we actually train that instinct that we're born with out of our children. So if you think about it, from a very young age, we teach our kids that they have to sit still when they're in school, when they're in their place of worship, when they're eating a meal, when they're in company. So all those intuitive movements that normally kids are there, they're stretching, they've got a leg up by their ear all of a sudden as they're chatting. We teach them that they should not listen to that. And so now we become adults who are maybe in pain or dealing with a chronic issue, and we need to be relying on our instincts but we've dampened those instincts. We've trained them out of ourselves. So the good news is that we can relearn them. Those instincts are kind of like skills that we can relearn.
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm actually like, I'm actually talking to you right now. I'm like listening. I don't even want to interrupt. So how do we start? What do we do?
So one of the things that I think is really interesting is that, and it's not even just people in pain, it comes back to not listening to anything. As adults, let's say, we tend to only move when it's prescribed to us. So we move if we're following along in a class at the gym or at a studio. We move if we've been given a rehab program. But what about just moving because it feels good? What about moving because, you know what, I'm sitting here right now, but I'd rather sit like this? Societal norms kind of keep us from doing that.
I've actually had a shift for the last 5 minutes.
Good. So shift. Everyone should
one hip, it's like not happy.
So please keep shifting. And it's so silly how because of societal norms, we don't want to look strange or we don't want to call attention to ourselves. But if you've got that urge to shift, that's your body giving you a signal that you'll be more comfortable if you change your position. So let's learn to listen to that. So I think of it as, instead of thinking of movement as your duty, think of it as your choice. So even if, for example, you are going to do a program that I've maybe prescribed to you, instead of trying to do it exactly as I've shown you, which for a lot of people that paralyzes them, because if they can't remember exactly how to do it, they say, well, I'm afraid to hurt myself, so I won't do anything. What I'm giving you is just a suggestion. It's a jumping off starting place. But you'll do so much better if you take it with a grain of salt and you make it your own. And you choose to do what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure, what just makes you feel good. So I like to think of it as being a detective or an explorer. So as you're exploring movement, think of your body as your most fascinating case that you've ever worked with. And so every message you get from your body, whether it's pleasant or painful, is just another clue. It's another piece of the puzzle that you say, okay, so when I'm doing movement, the other night, my back was in a really bad way the last few days, and I could barely move at all.
It almost didn't.
Yes, I actually at first asked if we could postpone this, because when my pain is like that, cognitively, I'm so affected that I was afraid I wouldn't be able to speak coherently. But as I was exploring movement, the movements I normally do, I could not do. But instead of getting angry and frustrated and fearful, as I'm going through those movements, I think, oh, okay, well, really interesting. Today, my body really does not like that. Okay, so what does that mean? What if I do it this way instead? And you take it as a journey of exploration and curiosity and play, like a toddler or a puppy would do, instead of being so goal-oriented. Well, Colleen said I had to do 3 sets of 10 repetitions exactly like this, and if I can't do it like that, then I just won't do anything. Is that?
I think that's, my athletic therapist, I think, teaches that as well. She's like, if you just you have to move in order to get past the pain. Like the pain wants you to not move, but the pain feels better if you do move.
Yes, it does. And if we come at it with that sense of duty, duty is like a job. So that can be stressful to our system. And so we're releasing that cascade of stressful chemicals and hormones into our system before we even start the movement. Whereas if we come at it with that sense of curiosity and play and interest, we're releasing endorphins and dopamine into the system, which make us feel good and help with pain. So it's just a win-win. And it's more fun.
Well, it's definitely less daunting.
Yeah.
Now, we had said you had 4 things you wanted to cover before we started. Did I get to them all?
No, that was 2.
Okay.
So the next one is, people often don't know where to start. So right now, maybe you don't have a program that someone gave you and you're really saying, well, I don't know where to start. I'm afraid to hurt myself. Work with what's already working. So we tend to be very pain-centric, that if my knee is sore, I have to exercise my knee. And sometimes maybe you do, but oftentimes it's actually much better to start somewhere very far away from where your pain is. Because if you think again about that embryo, that we are grown from a sperm and an egg, that builds our entire thing that is us. So if you gain movement anywhere in the body, it will give movement everywhere in the body. So I'll give you just a quick example. When at the beginning of my journey with pain a decade ago, there were 6 weeks when I could not move my head, my torso, my legs. I could only move my hands for 6 weeks. I lay on the floor and I could only see the ceiling. So what I did for hours and hours and hours was I explored little movements of my fingers and my hands. I built that into my wrists and my elbows. And knowing that even though it's my spine that's not able to move right now, if I gain movement anywhere in my system, it will help every other part of my system.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last thing, Rhonda, that I wanted people to take away from this, there's a misconception about how pain works in the body. So we don't have pain fibers anywhere in the body. And that's something that's newer information for us in the last 15 years or so. So that means that when you do something that injures your tissues, let's say you hurt your shoulder, whatever, let's say your shoulder gets pulled back and you feel a pain there. We used to think that it's because we damaged the pain fibers that were in the shoulder. We now understand that that's not the case. We have sensory neurons called nociceptors, and you don't need to know that word, but essentially they're like alarm bells or danger detectors. So when they get woken up, that turns into electrical signal that will go to the spinal cord. Spinal cord decides, is this important enough to send up to the brain? If it does, it goes up to the brain. We still don't feel any sensation yet. Once it gets to the brain has to decide based on everything that's ever happened to you in your life, not just physical, but every emotional, psychological, absolutely everything you have lived in your life and everything that's surrounding you in the moment that you hurt your shoulder. And it decides, is this dangerous for my person? And if it decides yes, then it will send signals down the spinal cord and upregulate those signals, which then we will feel a sensation of pain. Or it will do the opposite. If the brain decides, no, you know what, this is not dangerous to my person, it sends a different set of chemicals to downregulate the signals, and then we don't feel a sensation of pain. And the good news about that is that by us changing our mindset, changing our environment, approaching movement with a sense of curiosity and play instead of a sense of duty, getting in contact with our natural instincts, being positive, all of these things, we can help change the story up where the brain is deciding whether it's dangerous or not. And if we can alleviate some of the danger through our emotions, our mindset, etc., then we can help the brain decide, no, you know what, this is not dangerous for my person, so I'm not going to give them pain at this moment.
Okay.
So it gives us a lot of power.
It's very interesting. And it's actually all, like you said at the beginning of this, it's all what we were designed to do.
It's all, our bodies know how to do it. And it's the external factors that start to interrupt that, the environment, the external stressors, technology, all of that takes us more and more outside of our natural instincts. So because we're on the computers more these days, just be aware that, okay, that takes me outside of my body, but then I need to complement with something that brings me back inside my body, because it's all skills that are trainable.
Okay. And how do we get in touch with you?
So I've started a YouTube channel during this COVID thing. It's under my personal name, Colleen Jorgensen, and I have over 50 practices on there. I'm actually in the process now of building an online program that will have things like what I've put on YouTube, but with a lot more of the educational portion as well, and a lot more guidance about what to do when. So that's called Discover to Recover. So keep your eyes open for that. It's not ready yet.
Okay, so everyone touch me on YouTube, Colleen Jordan.
On YouTube or on Facebook, also under my personal name, or my email address, which is coljorgensen13@gmail.com.
Perfect.
And then last thing, Rhonda, on May 13th, Wednesday of next week, I'm going to be teaching for Pain BC. Pain BC has a series right now called Gentle Movement at Home, which is all with pain care educators. So it's live on Wednesday, but you can always access it on their Facebook website or their YouTube channel, which is Pain BC Gentle Movement at Home.
Okay, perfect. If you can shoot me the event link, I can add it to the West Island blog page.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So we'll look forward to that next Wednesday. And we have another video coming up with questions that you've received. So please don't be shy to put questions in the comments. Colleen will be looking for future videos, but we have something set up for the next session already done.
Thank you so much, Rhonda, for giving me this platform. It's reaching a lot of people and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. Stay safe.
You too. Thanks.